Today we're going to reflect on the topic and concept of privilege, more specifically unearned privilege. And unearned privileges that sometimes we experience and oftentimes people are unaware of it. In society, often, for example, men in majority groups are conditioned or taught not to see their privileges. They can admit that others are underprivileged, but oftentimes they cannot see the corollary of this. So that's just one example. Since I am a male, I'm giving you that perspective. Let me dig a little bit deeper into this concept and share what I have done in corporate workshops to discuss and bring this concept to light with regards to managers and executives so they can better understand the concept of unearned privileges. What do you think was the first question asked when babies were born before the existence of sonograms? Right, the question was, is it a boy or a girl? And the race was on. We began separating children right away, and this usually is done based on outside characteristics, which the little baby has little or no control over. So we put little boys into this club and we put the little girls into this club. We tend to form into groups with others who share some of the same basic characteristics. Some people call them groups and others call them cliques, clubs, clans, tribes, etc. Let us, for the purpose of this lecture, call them groups or clubs. So if you're a baby boy, society enrolls you into the men's club. If you're a baby girl, society enrolls you in the women's club. Keep in mind that the babies are not asked if they want to join this group. It just happens. And that continues throughout our adulthood years. We're put into these clubs, and we tend to stay there and follow those rules. So the phenomenon continues into adulthood in our society. Many folks, probably most, are unaware of this tendency of being grouped into clubs. Based on these cliques in group membership, some people receive privileges that are not necessarily afforded to others in society, especially those who are outside of that group. The term used to reflect this concept is unearned privilege. Unearned privileges are advantages given to some individuals and withheld from others because of their perceived difference and without regards to their own personal efforts or abilities. In other words, based on the grouping, based on the membership, we automatically withhold some advantages from individuals and give it to others. Every individual falls into a group or a club based on his or her, for example, gender, body size, skin color, culture, ethnicity, race, and maybe other characteristics like abilities and disabilities. If your group has large numbers or power and prestige, you tend to fit right in the middle of that curve, right in the norm. These people in the norm have some privileges that those outside the norm do not always have. In real life terms, they get a little boost, a leg up, a beanie, or a little bit extra compared to everybody else outside of that group. This does not mean that life is handed to them on a silver platter and they do not work hard for what they have. I do mean that they do have to work hard for what they get. And in addition to that, they may still get a little boost, a little extra because of this unearned privilege. The paradox is that they do not even know it. When they're told about it, they might even disbelieve it. When you're in the norm, you think that is the way it is for everybody. However, it is not that way for everybody. You might remember the old parable about the king and his son. The king and his son were watching the protesters cross their home near their castle, and they were yelling bad things about the king because of the inflation and the hunger. The son asked his dad, "Dad, why are they protesting?" The king replied, "They're hungry and they need bread so they can eat and survive." The son replied by making a suggestion. "Well, Dad, if they're hungry and don't have any bread to eat, Why don't they eat cake and cookies? Well, eating cake and cookies might have been an option for the king and his family. It might be the norm for them, but it is a colossal luxury for the person who cannot afford a piece of bread to survive every single day. So the moral of the story is that when you are in the norm, when something is normal for you on a day-to-day basis, you think that is the way it is for everybody. However, the reality is that it may not be so, regardless of how much we personally want things to be that way for us or for other individuals in our departments or in our communities. The existence of unearned privilege leads to increased tension between colleagues, to increased stress, to frustration, because it usually comes at a cost to someone else. Sometimes society automatically affords you unearned privilege because you fall in the norm, and sometimes you may have to work harder because the society is not structured toward your needs. For example, society structures everything for right-handed persons, which means that left-handed individuals have to function in a right-handed world. My predominant right hand is right, so I function mostly with right hand. But obviously, my brother happens to be left-handed in our family, so everything is geared toward me, not so much toward him. The school desks, manufacturing machines, scissors, doorknobs, golf clubs, and even some necessities of life are usually built for the right-handed individuals like me, who falls in the norm. You can realize these unearned privileges by asking yourself some basic questions. So try to reflect on and answer yourself the following question. Does society accord you more or less privilege based on your nationality, based on your race, based on your place of birth, based on your body size, based on your ability or disability, based on your gender, based on your skin color, based on your education, or even other dimensions of diversity? Many of us can think of some of our own characteristics that have earned us certain privileges without any effort or work on our part. For example, being a male can have certain privileges to me, which are afforded to me as an unearned privilege, which means I did not necessarily work to get these or to earn these privileges, but they're offered to me simply because I am a male and I fall in the norm. Why is it that some of my female colleagues earn about 20% less than men when they're actually equally or even more qualified for the same jobs? That's the norm today for most managerial positions, where females earn 20% less than their male colleagues. Why is that I often get management position opportunities despite the fact that female colleagues might be more qualified for it? Why is it that I'm encouraged to go into management ranks and positions when females are not always encouraged? Also, one's height, for example, or being short or tall can have many advantages and at other times some disadvantages. So unearned privilege is a subject that requires deep and sometimes introspective thinking or thought. The concept is more difficult to understand for some than for others. We can conclude that those who have unearned privileges are seldom aware that they have it. However, those who do not have these privileges are very much aware that they do not have it. We should also remember that unearned privileges are very subtle. Many people that have unearned privileges may be totally unaware that they have unearned privileges. When people are unaware, it is often difficult to convince them that they do, in fact, have privileges that they have absolutely done nothing to earn. Those who do not have these privileges are very aware that they do not have it. Unearned privileges create tension, stress, and frustration in a diverse work environment. Therefore, we must be aware of it. We must acknowledge that we have certain privileges that are afforded to the majority and not always to the minority. So you can personally become part of the solution to effectively managing diversity by refusing to accept privileges that you have done nothing to earn, and become a cultural ally for those individuals who are not in the norm, those individuals who do not always get these privileges that are afforded to the majority or those who fall in the norm. Cultural ally refers to those individuals who intervene or interrupt to stop mistreatment or injustice from occurring to other individuals. These can be in the work or even societal settings. Sometimes when we think about the magnitude of the opportunities that exist in our society, we may actually feel that we cannot make a difference. However, one way that we as individuals can make a difference is by becoming a cultural ally in our departments, in our workplace, and in our societies. Companies expect their managers to be culturally competent allies in the workplace. As you become more culturally competent, you'll find more and more opportunities to be a cultural ally and appropriately intervene to stop injustice and discriminatory practices from taking place in your specific department or in your vicinity in society. Good luck being a cultural ally for yourself, for your family members, and for your colleagues in society and in the workplace.